If you've got trouble losing weight and you've wondered whether you have an issue with your thyroid, today's show may be just what you're looking for. Today's guest is known as the Thyroid Fixer, Dr. Amie Hornaman. Welcome to the show. She's a woman on a mission to help patients optimize their thyroid function and give them their lives back.
I'm a huge advocate of you knowing your body. You know when something is wrong. You know when something's off. So 2% of the population with hypothyroidism do well on T4 only. Now, of that 2% that do well, air quotes, are they really, or are they walking around still 20 pounds overweight and tired, and that's just their new norm? But really, they could be so much better if they were properly treated.
Welcome to the Labrada Show.
Brought to you by Lean Body, the #1 protein shake in gyms across America.
Hey guys, welcome to the Labrada Show. I'm here to help you improve your physical, mental, and spiritual health. On every episode, I'll bring someone on to help us learn. If you've got trouble losing weight and you've wondered whether you have an issue with your thyroid, today's show may be just what you're looking for, so stick around. But first, I want to thank you. Our show is growing fast and it's becoming very popular thanks to you. So if you're enjoying the content, would you please hit the like button below now and forward the show to just one other person? That way we can keep helping more and more people and I can keep bringing you content that you can grow with. Today's guest is known as the Thyroid Fixer, and she has an incredible podcast that is followed worldwide. She's a woman on a mission to help patients optimize their thyroid function and give them their lives back. She's the founder of the Institute for Thyroid and Hormone Optimization, which is an organization with transformational proven approaches to address thyroid dysfunction and support people in returning to full health. Dr. Amie Hornaman, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lee. It's a pleasure to be here.
So good to have you on board. And Amie, let's start off. I'd like to know a little bit about your story, how you became the Thyroid Fixer.
Absolutely. So like most of us in the space, we've had our own pain to purpose story. So we've gone through something that led us to help other people. And that's no different for me. If we rewind 25-ish years ago, 30 years ago, I was competing. I was doing figure competitions and doing fitness modeling as well. And I had done plenty of shows, all amateur, but plenty of shows, plenty of photo shoots. I would prep the same way for everything, the strict diet, the gym twice a day, the whole deal. And this one particular show I was getting ready for, and you start to get used to how your body's going to respond. You know how it's going to respond. We'll change things up every show, but you still, the premise, right, is there. This one show I was getting ready for was the NPC Pittsburgh, and I was training and checking in with my coach like we all do, step on the scale. Every time I stepped on the scale, it was going up. And I mean 5, 10, ultimately 25 pounds heavier. After that, I stopped weighing myself because I fell into a depression. I started self-blaming. I started self-loathing. I started thinking, well, maybe I need to eat even less and exercise even more, maybe hit the gym 3 times a day. But I went to my doctor because that's what we do. When our bodies start rebelling against us, we go to our doc. We say, hey, doc, here's what's going on. Don't know what's happening. Something's wrong. And I'm a huge advocate of you knowing your body. You know when something is wrong. You know when something's off. So I went to my doctor, and to this day, I don't know what tests they did. I would love to go back and see what tests they did. I know it wasn't thorough, but they told me everything was normal. You're normal. Everything is fine.
No.
One doctor actually told me to eat less and exercise more, which I laughed at.
Wow.
I didn't accept that answer because, again, I knew my body. I knew something was off. I knew that whether you believe in calories in, calories out or not, biologically speaking, my body should not be laying down 25 pounds of extra fat when I'm prepping for a show. It just shouldn't happen. So I kept going, and I went to ultimately 6 different doctors who all misdiagnosed me, told me I was fine. It's all in my head. We now call that medical gaslighting because they make you think that you're crazy when there's actually something wrong. They're just not finding it, or they're not testing thoroughly enough to find it. And the 7th doctor actually did give me a diagnosis. She said, you have hypothyroidism, you have Hashimoto's. We did an ultrasound and we see that you have a thyroid problem. And she said, here's a pill.
And she gave you a pill?
I got a pill, which I was excited about.
Do you know what you were taking?
I do. It was T4 only. So it was Levo. It was the generic for Synthroid.
Okay.
Yep.
And
listen, I mean, I was happy. I thought that was the answer. I thought it was, this is like a fat loss pill.
Did it
in
work?
This little prescription bottle.
Did it work?
No, I gave it 5 months.
Oh my gosh.
5 months. And it did not work. Not 1 pound. Not 1 pound change. And I was tired and my hair was falling out, the whole deal. So I ended up going back to her and saying, hey, this isn't working. I've been doing the Dr. Google thing. And turns out there's this other thyroid hormone. There's a couple different thyroid hormones that really should be in the mix. They're more active than this T4 is. Can we do that? And she said no. And I said, well, I'm going to find a doctor who does.
Okay.
And that's what led me into functional medicine. My savior, my hero, my mentor, a functional medicine practitioner, did for me what I now do for patients. Actually sat down, looked at all labs. We tested everything, all labs. What am I eating? What am I taking? And let's get you on the right treatment protocol so that we can actually fix your thyroid and get you optimized. And that was the shift that I needed when I saw what was happening to me, both being medically gaslit and then finally being helped by the right treatment. I thought, well, you know what? There are millions of other people like me that are on this medical roller coaster and getting the runaround and getting misdiagnosed. So that's what led me into functional medicine and ultimately specializing in thyroid and hormones.
Okay. So let me go back for a second to when you were competing, because my understanding is that you were competing. You had competed several times with no problem, right? And then all of a sudden you hit the wall. And why do you think that your body just stopped working after so many times of peaking correctly for your competitions?
We know that competing is really tough.
Yes.
And it's a stressor on the body.
Yes.
And with Hashimoto's, being an autoimmune hypothyroidism, being an autoimmune condition, with all autoimmune conditions, there's usually a stressor that just turns that switch into the on position. So a lot of times women will say, it was after my second pregnancy, it was after I went through a divorce or a move or a job change that all hell broke loose in my body and it went haywire.
Stress.
For me, I believe it was the competing that flipped that switch to the on position.
Okay. Now, you work with people to optimize their thyroids, obviously. And let me ask you this, a very basic question. What is the thyroid and what does it do?
Let's start there. So it is a butterfly-shaped gland in your neck, and it's the master gland. It runs your entire body. And this is what's really important to keep in mind. And why the thyroid gland doesn't get as much love in conventional medicine, I don't know, because it runs your entire body. Every cell in your body has a receptor site on it for thyroid hormone. So we're talking your metabolism, your body temperature, your energy, your mitochondrial function, your brain function, everything. Whether or not your hair grows, whether or not you poop every day is determined by your thyroid producing the right amount of thyroid hormone.
Okay. So what percent of people have thyroids that don't function properly? In other words, how prevalent is thyroid dysfunction?
It's pretty big. So it hits women more than men.
Okay.
And the last stat that I saw is 16 million Americans diagnosed with hypothyroidism, but there's also around 8 million that are undiagnosed. So in the same camp as I was in, they're walking around with all these symptoms, but they're being told that they're fine and they're normal. Wow.
That's insane. What are symptoms of thyroid malfunction? You mentioned being tired, gaining weight, hair loss. What are some of the other symptoms?
Low libido, intolerance to cold. So people will be cold when the rest of the room is quite comfortable.
Oh,
wow. Constipation, depression, anxiety, brain fog, memory loss, everything. When you think of hypo, think low and slow. So everything slows down from your gut motility to your metabolism to your thinking. It's all just very, very slow.
Okay. And when people have a problem with their thyroid, you send them to get a thyroid panel. Let's talk about that for a second. Should everyone get a thyroid panel at some point?
Yes, I'm a firm believer in that, and they should actually get it multiple times in their life, especially if they're presenting with symptoms. So we have to break down what that thyroid panel is, though, because if you go to your doctor and you say, hey, I just heard this thyroid expert and I really want to get my thyroid tested. If you just ask for that, you're going to get the same test that I did way back in the day, which is going to be a simplified test that doesn't tell the whole story. So you're going to get TSH and free T4. TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. It's important to note that that is a brain hormone. That is not a thyroid hormone. It's released by your pituitary to signal the thyroid to make more thyroid hormone. So I love analogies, so bear with my analogies. It's like, you know, when you have a kid that's not listening, you're like, Johnny, pick up your toys. Johnny doesn't listen. Your voice gets a little bit louder, right? Johnny, you need to pick up your toys. And your voice keeps raising because you need Johnny to listen.
Right.
That's your brain yelling at your thyroid. The higher that TSH goes, it's yelling at your thyroid saying, hey, come on now, wake up and do your job, please. So as TSH goes up, that's an indicator that you are hypo, low, and slow, that your thyroid isn't working properly. But that's not the only marker. We have to look at the thyroid hormones. So we want to look at the inactive thyroid hormone, free T4. We want to look at the active thyroid hormone, free T3, which is the most important. We want to look at reverse T3, which reverse T3 is the anti-thyroid hormone.
I want to talk
Another
about that one.
This is the bouncer at the club hormone. This is reverse T3 sits outside your cell door with its arms crossed like a bouncer and tells T3 can't get in. They're like, yeah, you're not getting in tonight. Sorry, you can't do your job. So we want to know what that number is, right? So we want to test it. And then we want to test for the antibodies.
And so let me ask you this, because this is the first time I've heard of reverse T3. And so reverse T3 stops T3 from getting in, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
and
that
so
active thyroid hormone.
Do you think, I'm just gonna ask a question because there's a lot of us out there that are athletes and bodybuilders. Do you think that bodybuilders can diet themselves into a state where reverse T3 can bring fat loss to a halt?
Yes. Yes, 100% yes.
Wow.
Reverse T3 goes up from a variety of different conditions. So you could be insulin resistant. You could be estrogen dominant, which we know a lot of men and women are, especially those taking TRT. You know, if they're not using an AI, they can become estrogen dominant. Women are often estrogen dominant. And then stressors, so elevated cortisol. What is more of a stressor than putting your body through like the rigorous competition, diet, and exercise? I mean, it's a good thing, but it's a huge stressor on the body. The same thing as pregnancy. Pregnancy is a stressor. It's natural. Yes, we're built to procreate, but it's a huge hormonal shifting stressor on the body.
Okay.
So to answer your question directly, absolutely, it can increase reverse T3.
Okay, so you have a bodybuilder or a figure athlete that is competing, training insanely hard in the gym, dieting really, really hard, a lot of stress, cortisol goes up, and all of a sudden their fat loss comes to a stop. They need to look at reverse T3, correct?
Yes. So I would look at free T3 and reverse T3 because what free T3 tells us is how much of that active thyroid hormone you have to attach to a cell. So think of the cell as like a lock and key. And it's looking for the correct attachment.
Okay.
So that T3 comes in and locks in on the cell and turns it on. So that's what's giving you the metabolism and energy, growing your hair, giving you brain function. So we want to know how much of that active thyroid hormone is in the body, but then we want to look at how much is getting blocked. So those two markers are the most important. I don't care if you skip all the others. If you just get free T3 and reverse T3, that's going to tell us a boatload about your thyroid function. Okay.
And if your reverse T3 is high, is there something you take for it?
T3.
Aha. You just increase the T3.
So it depends on the person and what they're actually doing right now. So let's say we have someone And also I'd like to mention there's normal and optimal with reverse T3. So that range that you see on your labs goes all the way up to a 24, 25 on most labs with reverse T3. We actually want it below a 12. So just because it's not flagged high and you don't have a little H next to it, it doesn't mean that you're not optimal. You could be riding around with a reverse T3 of a 15 or a 17, and that's enough to stop fat loss. So if someone is on T4 only, like I was given by the one doctor that diagnosed me, we know that if reverse goes up, that person is taking that T4 and it's just pushing it down the wrong road. So T4 has two paths to choose. It can choose the path of converting to free T3, which is great, or it can choose the path of converting to reverse T3, which is not great at all. So we know if someone has too much T4 on board, we want to lower that. So that would be step one would be, hey, let's change the dose of T4 that you're on. Now let's add in some T3 properly to bring down the reverse and bring up the free T3 and ultimately help you with your symptoms.
And so we've talked about the athletes. Let me talk about the other extreme. Let's say that, because you said it affects females disproportionately. Let's say you have a female that's 30 or 40 pounds overweight. She goes to the doctor. They put her on T4. They don't check her reverse T3. That sounds like a nightmare scenario to me.
It is. So there's an interesting stat, and I just gave a training earlier today to a group of practitioners learning how to do BHRT, bioidentical hormone replacement. And I gave them this stat, and then I have an argument to back it up. So 2% of the population with hypothyroidism do well on T4 only. 98% of those with hypothyroidism need T4 and T3. Now, of that 2% that do well, air quotes, are they really, or are they walking around still 20 pounds overweight and tired? And that's just their new norm. So if you ask them, hey, how do you feel? They go, yeah, I'm okay. I feel fine. But really, they could be so much better if they were properly treated. So my argument is that 0 do well on T4 only if you really dig down and ask them, if you look at their body composition, if you ask them about their energy levels. Everyone needs T4 and T3 together. We need that active thyroid hormone in there.
Okay, so let's say that that they go to their doctor. They should ask, in addition to the TSH, T4, and T3, they should ask to have their reverse T3 measured as well.
And every single time.
Okay.
Every time.
Okay.
Now, the answer that they're going to get back from their doctor is, we don't test that unless it's a clinical setting, meaning that you're in the ICU or the ER fighting for your life or post-injury or trauma. But then again, my argument would be, well, no kidding, you tested in that scenario, and it's going to be high because our bodies are beautifully and wonderfully made to protect us in those times of trauma or injury. Reverse T3 is actually built into our bodies as a survival mechanism. So when you are in that state of fighting for your life, reverse T3 goes up and it says, Lee, you don't need to burn fat right now. You don't need to have energy. You don't even need to think. You need to lay here and survive and heal. And so it's going to pull energy from all those things that you don't need and shut down your body so that all energy can be directed to healing. The problem is if reverse T3 is elevated and you're not laying in a hospital bed and you're trying to live life and do life, but your body is essentially in survival mode, that's where we absolutely want to test it outside of a clinical setting.
Okay. Amie, let me take you in the direction of nutrition for a second, and more specifically, gut and digestive issues. How do those affect the thyroid? For instance, how does leaky gut affect the thyroid?
Absolutely. Okay. So when we're talking about Hashimoto's, that equates to about 95% of all hypothyroid cases is the autoimmune form Hashimoto's. That's where your immune system is confused. It thinks your thyroid is a bad guy and it goes out and attacks it on a regular basis. Same if you had rheumatoid arthritis, it would be attacking your joints. If you have celiac, your body is literally attacking the microvilli in your small intestine. So with Hashimoto's, we know that eating gluten will cause leaky gut, and that those LPS, those lipopolysaccharides, or toxins rather, will permeate the gut lining and get into the bloodstream and cause inflammation. That is number one. It will cause an autoimmune attack right then and there. So leaky gut will spur on an autoimmune attack. And that means that your soldiers are going out and they're beating up your thyroid over and over and over again. If I beat you up every day, you're not going to work well, right? You're just going to want to lay around. So number one, we want to stop that beat up. We want to stop the war. We want to stop the destruction. So going gluten-free is imperative when we're talking about autoimmune, just to stop that autoimmune attack. And then when we look at the gut specifically, there is a gut immune system correlation. You know, you've heard over and over again, immunity starts in the gut. Same thing. There's still that connection with autoimmune too. So if we don't have a healthy gut, if we're dealing with dysbiosis, if we're dealing with candida, that's not only going to interfere with the conversion of T4 to T3 that happens in the gut. So there goes the reverse T3 up. It's also going to directly affect your immune system so that those soldiers go out and they attack. So just having leaky gut alone is enough to spur on an autoimmune attack.
Yeah, leaky gut is a real problem nowadays, I think, because of the Western diet more than people even know. And I think that inflammation is a major marker for the disease process nowadays. And I think people are starting to realize that. Now, let me ask you this. What do you think is the best type of diet to maintain a healthy thyroid? Is there such a thing?
Well, so it's very individualized, but in general diet would be a gluten-free, real food, no processed food diet. And really, isn't that what we should all be aiming for, right? Eating what God made, not what man made. Now, occasionally, okay, you're going to have some things come in. Like I love protein powder. I love that for supplementing protein because my ladies don't get enough. There's certain man-made foods that are fantastic to add in, but then there's your in general kind of no-brainer box foods that we shouldn't be adding in, right? The pastas, the breads, the potato chips, all of that. So that's kind of a no-brainer. So gluten-free, real food as much as possible. And then we can get a little bit more granular with each individual and say, well, do you have insulin resistance? Because I often see insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes go hand in hand with hypothyroidism. You might have somebody on the most pristine diet in the world, and they're eating, clean foods. They're eating wild rice. They're eating sweet potatoes. They're eating quinoa, and their carbohydrates are a little bit higher. They're still gluten-free, but their carbs are higher. And we look at their labs, we go, yeah, but you just can't handle this many carbs because it's pushing your insulin up. Your glucose is through the roof. Your A1C is climbing. And I really like A1C between a 4.8 and a 5.1. So just because you're not flagged again with your A1C doesn't mean that you're not pre-diabetic. You still could be. And there we have to implement a lower carb diet. We just have to. You don't have to go carnivore, but we have to go low carb.
Okay, that's great advice. You've said, I've heard you on a podcast say, quote unquote, you have to have patience with the thyroid. What do you mean by that?
Oh, goodness. So you're starting off low and slow, right? Everyone that comes to see me, they're gaining weight or they can't lose and they're fatigued. And, just like all of us, we want results yesterday. So they want to start on this new thyroid treatment. They're all pumped up and they're changing their diet, and they get 2 weeks in or 4 weeks in, they go, I'm so frustrated. I've only lost 2 pounds. I go, only? What was happening before again? Wait, weren't you gaining about 1 pound a week, 2 pounds a week? Oh, yeah, that's right. Right. So you got to have patience because we are building you up from the ashes. We are taking this sluggish, low and slow body and low and slow cellular function, and we're rebuilding it. So that's going to take time for you to really be optimized and be able to live like your neighbor Susie Q, who doesn't have a thyroid problem. But even to that point, I would argue you still have to be a little bit more careful and a little more strict with your diet when you have hypothyroidism, because you're always going to be a little bit slower in the metabolic realm than your neighbor who doesn't have a thyroid problem.
So you mentioned earlier that thyroid issues are predominantly the domain of women, but there's a percentage of men that have thyroid issues also. Do you treat men differently than you treat women with thyroid issues?
No, we treat them the same. Ultimately, I want to optimize you. The thing with men is that when we see thyroid problems in men, there's always an accompanying low testosterone, always. So the reason why women get hit harder with Hashimoto specifically is because we in general have lower testosterone levels than you guys. Now, I mean, a lot of women have too low testosterone, and I'd love to address that too. But we have lower testosterone. So there was one study done that showed that using TRT in men with Hashimoto's actually lowered their antibodies and put their Hashimoto's into remission. Well, that tells us that testosterone is actually protective. It builds a protection against autoimmune. And that's why women get it more than men. But ultimately, you're going to be treated the same. We want to optimize your thyroid and we want to optimize your hormones at the same time.
Amie, let's talk a little bit about your program. Tell us how people engage with you and your program.
So we start everyone off with an application call because ultimately we want to know, what have you tried? What's worked? What hasn't worked? How many doctors have you seen? And most people are like me. They have the same story, that they've been through the ringer. They've tried everything under the sun. They've done every online program, every diet, every supplement. Some of them have wasted thousands with functional practitioners that don't know the thyroid or the hormones and how to optimize them. So we bring them in and we really want to kind of dig deep and find out more about you and then pair you up with a program that fits you. Now, myself and my team, we can prescribe to all 50 states, including testosterone, including hormones, including thyroid. So we have everybody covered. That was my ultimate goal because I realized the importance of replacing hormones, replacing thyroid hormone, replacing bioidentical hormones. So we can prescribe in all 50 states and we take you through a thorough lab testing. We sit down with you just like my mentor did for 90 minutes and we're going through your labs. We're going through what treatment you're on right now. What have you tried in the past? Now let's try this to really get you optimized. Let's look at your supplements. Let's look at your diet. Let's look at your stress. Let's look at your sleep. So all the aspects that come into you and your health, we dissect and look at so that everything can work together. I have this theory, just both and. And the reason why I say both and, meaning we're going to do everything at the same time. I see too many practitioners say, well, let's work on your adrenals first, and then we'll come over here and we'll look at your thyroid again. And meanwhile, that person's wasted 6-8 months of their life feeling miserable and you can't get that time back. So why not just do it all at once and just, hit them with a big hammer so that they can start feeling better sooner. And so that's the approach that we take.
And a lot of those things are interrelated anyway.
They are. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Amie, you have a very successful podcast. Please tell our viewers about that.
Yeah. So it's the Thyroid Fixer podcast and it's on all podcast platforms and we're up to almost 400 episodes now. So you can really dive in and hear me talk more about whether it's reverse T3 or using T2 instead or hormones, whatever. I have a ton of guests on as well. So dive in and listen and learn.
That's awesome. Where can our viewers find out more about you, your services and the programs, and where can they follow you on social media?
So you can go directly to my website at dramihornaman.com, and there you can book the application call if you're interested. You can just read more about myself and my team. You can find our store on there as well with the Fixer supplement line. And then on all social media platforms, find me at Dr. Amie Hornaman and I will be there. So follow me, send me a DM. I'm here for you. I love answering questions. And we do have it's called Girl Fix Your Thyroid, because it hits girls most. But we have a Facebook group as well that allows you to join and you can post your labs and get feedback. I mean, myself and my team are in there answering your questions. So you can get a lot of great feedback there.
That is really, really neat. Amie, this has been great today. You are just an amazing wealth of knowledge about the thyroid. And any final thoughts that you want to leave our viewers with?
I have a rule that if you ask your doctor for more testing and your doctor says no, it's time to get a new doctor. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I have that rule is because we just went over all of the tests that you just need for thyroid. I mean, we didn't even get into hormones. That's what you need for thyroid. And if your doctor, if you are coming to your doc and you're saying, listen, I have all these symptoms, I'm feeling miserable, what is going on? And you give them a list of tests that you want because you want to see the whole picture, and they say no, how are they going to treat you then? Why would you stay with that doctor that doesn't even want to write a script for a lab? That's no money out of his pocket to write a script for a lab.
Right.
So if they don't want to see everything, it's time to move on. And last but not least, I always preach the message of hope. If you are in that frustrating situation of no answers, I want you to have hope and keep going, because I often think, what if I would have stopped? What if I would have stopped at doctor number 4, doctor number 5? I mean, after 5, those are 5 different opinions that most people would be like, well, those are 5 specialists telling me that I'm normal, so it must be me. I want you to have hope and listen to your body, and do not ever give up until you find someone that can help you.
We love that message of hope. And I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today. And guys, I would encourage you to reach out to Dr. Amie if you think you have an issue with your thyroid. And for sure, check her out on her social media. Make sure you check out her website. And guys, help us to grow the Lee Labrada Show by sharing this podcast with just one other person. Would you do it now? And be sure to hit the subscribe button below and leave your comments and feedback, and that way I'll know what you guys want to watch. All right, you guys, stay motivated, get up, and look up. God bless you.
The Lee Labrada Show.
Voices in my head imprison me. Wanna hold me down, but I'm on board. You're the light that's cutting through my pain. You're moving me, oh Lord. I just wanna change.